Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is Two Back or Not to Back, where we're going to go through a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, the games, the stretch goals, the pledge levels, all of that and more, and of course, should you back it. Although, heavy asterisk on today's episode, I'm going to be going through a lot of campaigns, and I did not do the extra level of research onto whether things make sense to back from a value perspective. It is a big part of what I do every single week, but it is very time intensive, and I'm still playing catch up from 2 weeks ago, and I made the executive decision to just go ahead and focus on the campaigns a little less this week in order to catch up on the backlog that I'm up to. We'll be back with that part of the show next week. I know some of you care about it, some of you not so much, but just letting you know this week I'm focusing just on the campaigns, less on the what does it make sense to get from a monetary perspective. Anyways, with that, let's go ahead and start this off, although as usual we will be starting off with our Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is a segment where we take a look at a currently available game, one that you can get, which is Diatoms, currently on Game Nerds for $35, or $36 if we're being technical, $35.97 if we're being really technical. But Diatoms is a puzzly tile placement game of trying to maximize your score as you place these diatoms down onto a grid. The images here don't do it justice. It looks much better when you actually have it properly set up. But this is a puzzly point scoring optimization game, similar to games like Azul, but very, very, very different than Azul. One worth checking out. It was on crowdfunding, now it's in retail. Feel free to check this one out, check out reviews, coverage, see if it's a game for you. But as usual, Cult of the Now, where you can get games available now with a lot of reviews and opinions and all of that, all available right now. But with that, let's go ahead and dive into crowdfunding. We will be starting off with 6 campaigns. This is one of the largest amounts, 6 campaigns in our board game adjacent category. Our board game adjacent, forget the value aspect, these are going to be very, very loose overviews because there are so many to go through over here, and I'm trying to cover today's episode in a reasonable amount of time. But we have 68 backers, $35,000 raised on game theory tables. They are offering a few options over here from their new Arena digital game table, which is not cheap, but it is so shiny and pretty. From their Origins Max, the Origins 2.0, you can go ahead and check out a variety of their tables to see what's right for you. I recommend starting off the video. The first minute is I feel when I cover game tables, the first minute of this video covers my thoughts and opinions, whereas like, we've heard it all. They have rails, and they have accessories, and they have this, and they have that, and they have all the usual. Game tables at this point have a formula of the things that make sense for a game table to have, and if you've seen one game table campaign, you've seen 78% of all of the game tables campaigns. That remaining 22% is where campaigns have the opportunity to stand out in terms of price, service, other features, or reasons to get this one versus that one, but I like how the first minute of the video on this campaign does cover that. Although speaking of ways to stand out, one of the things they are doing is they are doing a trade-in option. So there's a trade-in option where you can trade in a previous game table, theirs or someone else's, to get credit towards a new game table, which is an interesting idea as far as how they're running that. I think it's very interesting. It's interesting. Although then again, like we see phone manufacturers do this all the time. Like, hey, you want a new Google Pixel? Go ahead and trade in your Samsung and you get credit towards it. What do they do with it? I assume they sell it. I don't know the exact details. Either way, check out the campaign if you want to see more information. Then we have Hero Forge, custom dice. You can go ahead and get your little miniature over here embedded into a whole set of dice. It will not be cheap, and it'll get more expensive the more dice you get, starting off with one die over here for $75, and a full set for $170 for the early bird custom dice set, and of course you can go higher and more and get tons and tons and any number of just lots and lots of money on dice if you want it. And let's see what the most expensive pledge level is and how many people are backing it. We have a $10,000 pledge level with no backers. We have a $5,000 pledge level with no backers. We have a $1,750 pledge level with 3 backers. So that is the level of backers who want their stuff embedded in their dice. They do talk a lot about the balance aspect. They have a full section on roll, fairness, and balance. I know because I checked. I was curious. I wouldn't even get custom dice, but I was like, are they even fair? And the short answer is probably. At least they fall into enough of a statistically relevant gradient that they seem fair, but there's no guarantee without numerous more testing that they totally are fair, because even a pure random statistical gradient wouldn't actually result in complete and total fairness and equality. So probably is the closest I can give you over here and the closest they can give you, but it does fall within normal distributions of fairness, if that makes sense. You do enough rolls and you'd probably get closer, but you'd have to do enough rolls. Anyways, moving on from there, we have Good Time at the CLOCKTOWER with Becca Scott and friends. 1,400 backers, $110,000 raised. This is basically sponsoring several episodes of Good Time on the CLOCKTOWER, which is a Blood of the CLOCKTOWER show from Becca Scott and Good Time Society. They've done 2 episodes if you want to go ahead and check those out to get a general idea. And the hope over here is that they sponsor an entire season of, I want to say 10 episodes if I'm not mistaken. I have to scroll down to the section of the page where they talked about what you're getting or what they're doing. They had it somewhere here. Here we go, right at the top. I scrolled right past it. If they get to $250,000, they'll do 10 episodes. Right now they've crossed the 6 episode mark. They will probably hit the 8 episode mark. 10 episodes is ambitious, but possibly doable. 70 days to go, doubling the campaign. I don't think so. I think the 150,000 is probably likely to happen, but the 250 is a pie in the sky goal. That said, if you are interested in Blood in the Clocktower, you can be part of hitting that pie in the sky goal over here on this campaign. Then we have Vizzles, Visuals Puzzles, Series 12, 722 backers, $447,000 raised, 21 days to go. Visuals is a set of puzzles that they constantly keep coming out with new ones, and then you can go ahead and get the current ones as well as the back catalog. That's the current idea. They're visual puzzles. You put together the puzzle, you deal with a bunch of riddles and secret jigsaw, Easter eggs, trivia, all these different little things going on in the puzzles. Puzzles run you around $30 a pop, cheaper as you get more and more of them. But that's the basic idea of these visual puzzles. We have Spacebar, Magic Mountain, and Tanuki Town as the 3 new puzzles to check, and then of course they have their entire back catalog. I think they have their entire back catalog right now over here on the main pledge levels. They just have, you know, the options to get like the last puzzles as well as in options, mini puzzles, things like that. But in the add-ons, I want to say like they do have all of their puzzles. Maybe not. They might not actually have all the puzzles. After pledging, the add-ons are optional. I'm not sure if they have their full back catalog. Like these are puzzles up to 12 right now, and they're only offering 6. So I don't know if the entire back catalog is available or not. Let me check the FAQ. I should have checked this earlier. Nope, not seeing a thing. I don't know. Maybe you can get the back catalog, maybe not. If you know in the comments down below, go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, we're going to move on to our next one. We are still not done with our board game adjacent category. We have 2 more to go. Well, this one and 1 more. We have League of Dungeoneers acrylic standees. 106,000 euro raised, 522 backers. These are acrylic standees for League of Dungeoneers. There are a bunch of pledge levels over here, depending on what you want, and or depending on what you have gotten already. From the base set for 99 euro, the advanced set over here for 44 euro over here. This is advanced Bestia standees. The returning Ace All In. This is for people who bought the core set already. So if you already have the core set acrylic standees, we have the All In over here, giving you 220 euro for everything, and then plus accessories and binders and bonus standees, your character's standee, all these additional things for 280 or 370 euro. So a lot of money for standees for this incredibly well-rated dungeon crawler game, and you can upgrade your regular, cardboard standees to acrylic standees for a much more deluxeified experience. And then lastly, in the board game adjacent category, we have Frostpunk, the role-playing game. 543 backers, 26 days to go, $63,000 raised. This is a role-playing game set in the Frostpunk universe. I don't believe this is associated with Glass Cannon Unplugged. I believe we have the video game, and then we have a board game and an RPG. The RPG is not based on the board game. I say that because we have so many RPGs that could be based on board games or are based on board games. So this is going directly to the source material, as it were, and then getting it from there. Like there's just the Terraforming Mars board game, which is based on the Terraforming Mars RPG, which is based on the Terraforming Mars board game. This is the Frostpunk RPG, which is based on the Frostpunk video game, and separately there's the Frostpunk board game, which is based on the Frostpunk video game. All of these things all line up eventually, but that's basically it. If you want to check out a role-playing game set in the Frostpunk universe, this is that campaign. I won't be going into it more. I just don't do RPGs that much. And with that, we're going to move on to our actual board game campaigns. We have $425,000 raised, 2,400 backers, 4 days to go for Champions of Midgard 10th Anniversary Edition. This is either an upgrade to your regular Champions of Midgard, or alternatively the full-on box with everything and all those stuff. This is basically the one-time opportunity to get the game. They say this will never be made again, which is going to be made for purchase during this campaign, as well as extra copies available on their Great Fox web store. Obviously the extra, and conventions and all that. How many extra copies, don't know, but in theory this is never going to happen again. I say in theory because whenever someone says never again, I'm always like, will they though? Will they? I don't always know. Although to their credit, Great Fox in this campaign themselves, they're basically offering the all-in except for one specific die that they previously said will never be printed again. So this is kind of everything Champions of Midgard, except for one thing that they previously said would never be printed again. So as far as consistency in their word, that's a pretty good starting point. So overall, I mean, they're showing in this campaign that we're honoring the never again that they've said in the past, which is a good point over there. But either way, we have the Champions of Midgard 10th Anniversary Edition. We have the promo pack, which is basically all the promos except for that one thing, that polyhedral die. We have the deluxe upgrade kit, which is going to mostly bring your game towards all the things in this campaign, but not to the full-on deluxe. There's deluxe and there's the super deluxe. What are the pledge levels? Pledge levels are called, there's the collectors, deluxe and collectors. So the deluxe upgrade kit is mostly making this into a deluxe game, which we'll get into what that means shortly. We have the deluxe edition for $149 if you want the full-on deluxe edition, and then we have the collector's edition as the featured pledge over here for $250 for the anniversary collector's edition of the game. Champions of Midgard won't heavily go into the game, but the basic idea is your worker placement game, moving around the board, collecting your various stuff, and then going on these adventures where you roll tons of dice against the various enemies, trying to manage your dice mitigation and prepping, of course, accordingly for the battles that will ensue. Basically, it's worker placement with a whole lot of other things and a lot of dice rolling going on. And then, of course, there's the full 2 expansions, the Dark Mountains, as well as Valhalla. Never actually played those. I played the base game a long time ago. The expansions I never actually played, so I can't comment heavily on those. But the $249 Collector's Edition is going to come with a whole bunch of deluxeifications. It is expensive. It is very expensive. There was a lot of sticker shock. There were full forum threads about this game. But it also comes with a lot of things, so like I can't fully fault them for the price point relative to the content. We have all these injection molded ships over here. We have the premium dice, the inserts, the stackable custom metal coins, the sculpted bases over here, the sculpted the full color food pieces, the high quality like 100 resin acrylic tokens. Like there's a lot of goodies over here. 50 sculpted favor horns, 12 stackable player color helms. We have the blame tokens over here, the dual layered leaderboards, the full color acrylic standees. Again, this is a lot of stuff. The premium playmat, the bold, the Blanc new promo over here, the game tray storage system. That is a lot of stuff for a base game and 2 expansions on top of all of those extras over here. So again, all of this kind of makes sense to me price point wise. And then we have the regular deluxe edition, which is going to be, I mean, it's still deluxe, but it's, with the base game, the expansions, but it's also giving you a lot of wooden pieces. You're getting a lot of wooden bits over here, so upgraded, but not the same level of upgrade. Then we have for $89, we have the upgrade set over here, which is again, hopefully bringing your current game in line with the deluxe, not the collectors. I should note before we continue further on this, because again, obviously on the shipping as well is going to add the price point. Shipping is like $40, something like that for the collectors, and then dial down a little bit from there. But overall, all of this, I think price point for content does make sense from what you're getting. There's a lot going on here. At the same time, Grey Fox does unfortunately deserve a bit of a warning, so to speak. They've always, not always, I don't want to say always, they have consistently had enough production issues that they often have a reputation around having production issues. I've gotten a lot of Grey Fox games and not had any issues, so I want to be very clear about that as well. I do not think you are guaranteed to get issues, not by a long shot. I will say that there's enough buzz when their campaigns deliver that they have a higher than average amount of production issues or quality issues with the games that come out, and it's worth cautioning you that that is a reputation that they have before you spend $300. Again, my personal experience with them I have not had any of those issues, but a personal experience and the chatter in the forums are both things to be mindful of. My personal experience, good. Chatter in the forums definitely have a reputation. Just do your research before you dive into this and see if this is a game that you want to jump into. With that, moving on, we have companion quests. $50,000 raised, 882 backers, 4 days to go. Coming to you from Ghostfire Gaming. This is a family-friendly game of heroes on a big adventure as you gather companions, roll your dice, build your tableaus, and combo building in this game of just cute art, cute components, and cute little companions all going on your little adventures. Stretch goals over here are pretty straightforward. Well, not stretch goals. Where are the tiers? I went to go to the tiers. Pledge tiers. Pledge tiers over here are pretty straightforward. $25 for the base game. Unfortunately, shipping, by the way, does make that less worth it. 25 plus 14. That's already like nearly doubling, not quite doubling, but feels like it's jumping up a lot just from shipping. Versus if you're getting the other bundles, 17, 19, and 21 for the various other bundles, so percentage-wise it is better, but either way. Moving on over here, not either way, but it's $25 going to be the cheapest, most accessible, but the highest proportion of shipping being added. For $35, you get the Kickstarter edition plus expansion over here, a core game, expanded expansion, legendary expansion. The deluxe bundle is going to also give you the playmats over here on top of that, so you have the card sleeves, the neoprene game board, and the 4x neoprene player mats. And then the epic edition is like a full new box and everything else, a dice tower, the acrylic snack tokens, all these extra things on top of that, all in one epic box. That's basically what we have for companion quest. Moving on, we have Gudnak the card game. Big plays, bolder moves, and epic battles. 1,300 backers, $148,000 raised, 7 days to go. A very funny video that is worth watching, even just like the first 2 minutes. Honestly, the first 2, because it's a long video. I think it's like 7 minutes long. Let me see. Yeah, it's 7 minutes long over here. So definitely check it out. The first 2 minutes are worth checking out. After that, I think it gets less and less worth it as it goes on. Not that it's not funny. I just think the payoff ratio is getting worse, if that makes sense. But either way, Gudnak is a non-collectible card game. A non-collectible card game of, fantasy world. The sun is dying. Nobody's handling it particularly well, which seems about par for the sun dying. But it's a non-collectible card game that promises you the non-collectible aspect and therefore the cheaper price point. I will say, all that said, the cheaper price point kind of goes out the window when you go up over here to your, we'll ignore the $3,600 pledge just for game stores, but your legendary bundle for $1,400, there's a whole lot of money I could spend on collectible card games and not spend $1,400. So there's definitely ways to spend money on this. That said, you also could just go ahead and jump in at a lower tier as well, jumping in at $40 for the expansion, although expansions enough are not going to be enough. The returning backer bundle for $120, the gameplay bundle for $140, and honestly, the ratings on this game are pretty good. I have not played it myself, so I can't heavily comment on it, but ratings on it on BGG are pretty decent. I think it was coming in like an 8+, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go check it out again. I'd have to check it out again, but I think it was about in the 8+ range. Not a ton of ratings, but the people who have played it seem to enjoy it. So if you're looking for a tactical card game with a ton of different content and non-collectible in the way it's being built, this is going to give you that non-collectible card game vibe with those various bundles for 120, 140 for the gameplay, returning back to collector bundle for 360. These do jump up pretty quickly, so you kind of got to know what you're getting yourself into over here, but you could experience the starting base box alone at a semi-reasonable price. That's going to be Gudnak, the card game, big plays, bolder moves, and epic battles. Then we have Ozob, a Cyberpunk board game from Nonsense Creations. $100,000 raised, 391 backers, although to be fair, this is actually the second campaign. They first had a campaign on like a Brazilian crowdfunding platform or something that attracted most of their user base, most of their audience, because this is basically based on an IP already. Like, this is a well-known character for its own audience, and they are bringing it to a board game now as well. So this has an audience. They already raised a lot of money with that audience, and now they're coming in for kind of, you know, introducing it to new other people who aren't yet familiar with the IP. That said, the board game is basically a dungeon crawler. It's a Cyberpunk board game dungeon crawler, cooperative dungeon crawler with campaign aspects as you go through a series of linked games, slowly building up your characters. Not like full-on campaign. Like, don't think campaign like, I don't know, Gloomhaven. Think kind of like a mini-series of linked missions, like Zombicide, but with a few linked missions, nothing too crazy. So you don't have to commit to like playing 15 games, you're just playing a handful of games on these little miniature arcs as you go through it. But Ozob, basically, it's a dungeon crawler in which it's going to be a push-your-luck dungeon crawler. And honestly, that's the main hook of this game. Like, I've played this a few times now, and overall, like, it's sponsored content, so take my opinion with a grain of salt, but I've really enjoyed it, and the thing that makes it stand out is specifically that push-your-luck aspect, because to a large extent, it kind of feels like there's aspects of, a little bit of aspects of Death May Die, a little bit of aspects of Zombicide. It has that kind of general feel. You have a character, you have actions, you walk around the board, you try to take down the enemies are spawning, you're trying to basically survive as you accomplish your goals. Where the game stands out for me specifically is the push your luck mechanism, because it has a push your luck element where, kind of like if you've ever played games like, I don't know, what's that card drafting game from John D. Clare, the card crafting game, the one that made card crafting more well known, that I'm completely blanking on, before Dead whatever. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on all his games. There's a card crafting system from John D. Clare that I can't remember. Think Living Forest. Okay, we're gonna switch gears here. Living Forest. Living Forest is a game that has a kind of push your luck element where if you have too many failure symbols, you kind of bust. It's a similar system to that John D. Clare card crafting game, and it's a similar system in Ozob, where you're basically trying to figure out how much you can get done through drawing these symbols, but ultimately you could bust, but it's a cooperative game. It's a cooperative game with this happening compared to those other games, which are more competitive experiences. So combine good missions, good gameplay, just great components, miniatures, all those things, and a fun push your luck system, and you end up with a very satisfying dungeon crawler experience. The rewards over here are going to be the core game plus expansions for $230, the core game on its own for $120, and stretch goals and all that included, for pack 2 core game expansion accessories and novels for $300, and then everything for $450. To be very clear, these are all like completely extra. Core game's already going to give you plenty of content combined with stretch goals, and then $230 is going to give you more than enough content if you want to dive into that gameplay aspect. This kind of stuff is for people who are very invested, collectors. You're getting a full-on giant painted Ozob miniature in this $450 pledge. Like, that is an extra level. You don't need the giant Ozob deluxe statue, but maybe you want the giant Ozob deluxe statue. Who's to really say? Anyways, that's the core game over there. Stretch goals, they're just slowly releasing more and more content, the various characters. A lot of this has been unlocked already in the Brazilian campaign already, and now you can see over here the game found stretch goals, more things being unlocked, and to be clear, it's for backers of both campaigns. So everyone's getting everything. They're just using 2 campaigns to boost those numbers for everyone. That is basically Ozob, a Cyberpunk board game. Moving on, we have Village Attacks, Grim Dynasty Reborn. 1,100 backers, $53,000 raised, 8 days to go. And if you're like, that math doesn't seem right to you, that math didn't seem right to me either, which is why I looked into it a drop more. And basically, this is kind of a, we need some background here. Village Attacks was previously from Grimlord Games. Grimlord Games unfortunately went under and were not able to deliver their last game, Grim Dynasty, which is Village Attacks Grim Dynasty. They didn't do it, and so that kind of sucks for people who back that game. But this campaign is basically the IP was bought by Scoundrel Game Labs. They are taking it over, and they are giving, I believe they're giving, don't quote me on this, don't quote me on this. I believe they're doing at-cost production for previous backers who didn't get their games. So they're kind of saying, hey, we can't suck up the cost, it is what it is, but we can at least just not make money on the previous backers of this game. We bought the IP, we're starting it off again, there are new backers, those new backers, great, we'll do a typical, like, hey, we make games, we make money, hopefully everyone wins, but with previous backers, we're going to try to create as as much of a win-win as possible, and you could at least get your game at cost, which is very nice of them. Very nice. Obviously, for people who are in that situation, there's still the risk factor of like, but what if it happens again? And hopefully it won't, but there's that fear. There's certainly that fear, that frustration, no matter what. But to be very clear, any frustration, at least currently, should be directed at Grimlord Games and not directed at Scoundrel Game Labs. To be very, very clear, this is not a game from the people who took your money and didn't deliver a game. This is a game from the people who are trying to bring that game back to life because it was well-liked overall. So that's going to be Village Attacks and the kind of the backstory over here. The campaign gives you the opportunity to get anything from base game alone to all the content all the way through Grim Dynasty to get basically everything you want for the game. And there's a past backer pledge where you have 900 of our 1,100 backers are basically in the past backer pledge. There are some other people over here, $40 for the expansion alone. We have $20 for the core game alone. We have $25 for the core expansion. So there are a bunch of pledge levels. We have 100, we have 61 over here for the everything new. So a lot of different options as far as what people are jumping in on. But obviously that $5, oh wait, where are we here? The featured pledge is the big bundle, 38 backers who are just getting everything for this game for the first time. And then 900 backers who are previous backers of the game who are hoping to go ahead and give more money to get their stuff. Meaning you're not paying $5 to be clear. Once you get into the pledge manager, you'll then have the option to get more. I also realized my lights are not where I want them to be. Alexa, now recording. Alexa, now recording.
Okay.
There we go. There we go. A little bit of brightness in the background. Sorry about that. Anyways, also apologies to all of you who have devices at home, especially to those of you who have that key phrase set up, which would be very strange. Most of you should not have now recording set up as a phrase for your device. Anyways, that's basically what we got over here. So it's a new opportunity to get back in for both old and returning backers on Village Attacks. As far as Village Attacks, the game itself, because I just realized I didn't really go into it, Village Attacks is effectively a dungeon crawler in well, no, it's a dungeon crawler in reverse, sort of. It kind of flips the genre on its head, but not too much because ultimately it's just a theme flip, but there's extent to it. So the basic idea is you're not heroes hunting monsters, you're monsters who are being invaded by heroes. So you play as the various monsters who the heroes are trying to march into your place where you did nothing wrong, you just exist, you are poor Dracula being attacked and hounded by the various villagers. To that end, you are trying to survive their invasions, you're trying to set traps and use your actions all in favor of surviving the impending attack. So half tower defense, half dungeon crawler, and a whole lot of rolling dice and trying to take down the various enemies along the way in Village Attacks. Moving on over here, we have Scales of Fate. 5,739 backers, $500,000 raised, 9 days to go. Scales of Fate is a two-player strategic deduction game from Ivy Studios, who previously brought you Veiled Fate, which was a strategic deduction game that was more than 2 players, or 2 to 8 players, I want to say. But Scales of Fate basically takes that core concept and brings you an entirely different game, but feels very thematically similar and has a lot of similar vibes, while being different mechanically as far as how the game operates. The basic idea in this two-player head-to-head game is you are taking actions on your turn to either place one of these demigods onto the board, or to go ahead and put somebody into, or what are you doing again? Depending on the core actions. You can place a demigod onto the board. Somebody's placing a demigod will earn you a tile that you can then place onto the board in order to adjust the scales of fate, so to speak. Alternatively, there are these special god tiles you can take, but only 3 times per game total. Like, total is only 3 god tiles to take. Those are the core actions you're taking. Through those actions, you're going to elevate various demigods as far as their favor in the game. Although you're not revealing what your favor is, because your goal is you have 2 demigods assigned to you, and you ideally want to have them either exactly the same, very high up on the board, because that will give you points for that, or alternatively you want to separate them because you'll get the distance between their 2 points. So you're trying to play this game of trying to keep your goals and objectives just subtle enough that players can't stop you through knowing what you're trying to do and trying to, well, foil your plans. The more known your actions are, the easier it is for your opponent to get in your way. The more subtle your actions are, the harder it is, but also maybe you're not doing as well because it's so subtle. That's the constant balance in strategic deduction. This is a 2-player strategic deduction game. The points are very, very spread out in a very tight way that makes the entire experience a very delicate balance to play through. That's the basic idea of this. Then there's Pillars of Fate. They added a surprise game to this campaign. They've been advertising Scales of Fate the entire time, and then they're like, surprise, we have an extra game in this campaign. It's called Pillars of Fate, and it's a 2-player lane battler with deduction meets lane battler. I don't know a ton about this game yet. I believe I should be trying to play it later this week on TTS, if I'm not mistaken, so I will be playing this at some point, but I don't know a ton about it right now. I just know it's a 2-player lane battle with twist deduction, misdirection, and asymmetric powers, battle over 3 lanes, 2 outcomes for each lane, hide your intentions, meet the champions, heroes with unique abilities. It's a two-player lane battler. I'll talk more about it. Maybe next week I'll do a brief overview of it once I've actually dove into it and played it as well. That's the basic idea as far as these two games. The pledge levels are $40 for the standard version of Scales of Fate. Let me see if I can show you the pledge levels over here, because components are always nicer to see over here. We have our standard components, cardboard standees, single layer board, cardboard tokens, standard player mats, all that stuff. It's a $40 game, pretty straightforward. Or there's the deluxe edition for $60 over here that has chonky everything. Now I'm not gonna tell you what to get or not to get, but I will say the chonky everything game for the $20 extra to get everything chonky feels kind of worth it. Like, you don't need it. You definitely don't need it. And I'm not trying to advise you to spend too much money over here, but I will say the chonky everything game is very chonky. I'm just gonna say that, it's very chonky. Chonky is good, I like chonky. Anyways, for $20 extra you get the chonky everything game over here, and then for $80 you can get the deluxe edition of the game, as well as the limited edition of Pillars of Fate. That's going to be $80 to get all of that over there. Limited edition, gold foil cards, Pillars of Fate limited edition. I believe they said Pillars of Fate is going to be sold at Gen Con for $30 if I'm not mistaken, which means getting it at $20 over here, assuming you're getting other stuff and already paying for shipping, is probably worth it. If you're just getting the game on its own, Pillars of Fate, I don't even know if you can get it on its own. I have to double check you can. You might not be able to get it on its own. But if you're just doing that on its own, it wouldn't be worth it because you can get a Gen Con without the shipping aspect. But if you are getting everything else, then that makes sense. Of course, it is also Ivy Studios, so hey, we have Make It Metal, $59 to get these metal everything over here. Chonk, but heavier, super chonky. For $20 more to get the chonkiness, sure. This is just for people who are really big fans of Metal or Ivy Studios or their games. That is a whole different level. I'm not going to try to tell you to spend money on anything over here. This is just crazy. Let's move on to the next campaign. Onward, the MOBA board game. From Skytier Games, 199,000 euro raised, 1,000 backers, 9 days left to go. Onward is the spiritual successor to Skytier, taking some elements of what's made Skytier great, but then also very heavily differentiating it. Like, to a large degree, they rebuilt it from the ground up. There's obviously those inspirations are still at play, so there's some overlap, but to a very large extent, this is Skytier 2.0, not even Skytier 2.0, it's Onward, a spiritual successor, not an actual successor to Skytier. What is Skytier? Skytier is a MOBA game. What is a MOBA game? A MOBA game is a game which you have your heroes, but you also have these minions, and so you have to manage both the heroes and the minions, because ultimately the minions kind of get in your way, but the heroes are the things you want to take out to get the most charging forward, and then taking down your opponent's gate is often how you win the game. That's the general idea of Skytier, of MOBAs, and also Onward. Now, there are differences between all of them, but Onward itself is kind of focusing on that lane battling aspect. If you've played Skytier, there'll be similarities. If you've played games like Guards of Atlantis or Bones, there'll be similarities. Or if you've played online MOBA games, there will be similarities. You have your cast of heroes, either 3 per team or 4 per team, depending on the side of the board you are playing with. They all have different abilities, as well as there's 4 different genres of heroes as far as what they're trying to do with the general theme of a hero, so to speak. And then you're going to mix together the cards, build a deck, and use their actions every single round to try to drive the game forward as you charge over here, as you use an action over here, as you play a card and ability over there, all in the goal of moving forward on those lanes, slowing down your opponents, and being the first person to take down your opponent's gate. Lots of abilities, lots of variety. That's the general idea of this game. You can check out my full review if you want to see more on that. As far as the rewards over here, we have just Onward, the retail edition of the game with standees for €40. Standees, basic game, gives you a lot of heroes, a lot of content already in this game. It's a complete game, just not deluxe, not anything else. We have the all gameplay for €90. This is still the standee edition of the game, but this gives you 3 more expansions. Again, a lot more content here. Honestly, for most of you, you just don't need it. Most of you, if you play the base, if you're not playing this game a ton, the amount of hero variety is nice, but you're paying like twice the price for a full other game in order to get your hands on it. And if you're not playing this game to that level, you're basically paying for the fact that you want it to be complete, which I get. I'm not judging you. I'm the same person. I'm just saying you probably don't need to. Then for the all gameplay plus miniatures for Sky tier players, whenever you see 4 Sky tier players, what that means is if you already have content from Skytier, a lot of these pledges are reusing the miniatures from Skytier in order to be cost economical for yourself and for them. So basically, it uses the miniatures, so if you already have Skytier and you're going to use those miniatures and move them forward in this game, you can just get the all gameplay plus miniatures for Skytier players. The all in for Skytier players is going to give you, again, that's going to have it's using the miniatures for the Skytier players who have that. So again, same problem there. And then we have over here all gameplay plus all miniatures for €190 over here. So this is going to be €190 to give you everything if you don't have Skytier already. And then we have the all in over here, which is going to give you basically the Skytier, the miniatures, the playmat, the sleeves, the deluxe chips, all of that. By the way, I wasn't clear enough over here, but that's the difference between these 2 pledge levels as well. The difference as far as, again, the playmat, sleeves, and deluxe chips are those extra things you're getting over there. There's also options to get previous Skytier content, especially if you don't have it and if you want it, because honestly, Skytier is still a very, very enjoyable, playable game on its own. And if you want that variety, you could have Skytier and you could have Onward. For myself, I tend to be like, hey, if they think Onward is the best version of the game, I'll just play that going forward. And honestly, Onward is a better version of Skytier. It has everything that I liked about Skytier to an extent. Skytier had some nice quirks that were different, but I think Onward does feel more streamlined and better overall. So for me, I'm probably never going to play Skytier again. I'll probably just play Onward. Again, I could make the argument that you could play both. There are differences, like strong differences between the games. I just think I'd probably play Onward. Anyways, that's basically what I got as far as the game, as far as the campaign, the stretch goals, pledge levels, all of that. Again, I kind of recommend just getting less content for this. I don't think you need all of it unless you are, like, if you've played Skytier a ton, if you've played these kinds of games, you're a big fan of them, different story as usual. But for most people, I think it's overkill, and I think the base game is probably more than enough content to make most of you pretty happy and have a lot of variability going on. There's so many heroes in this game. It is, most of you are never going to play this game enough. Anyways, Artistry. 5,138 backers, $473,000 raised, 9 days to go. Artistry is from the people who brought you, Botany, and then they brought you another game after that. I don't remember what it was, but Artistry is a tile capturing game, sort of. The basic idea is you're going to be placing the tiles down onto a grid. The size of the grid will vary based on the player count over here, but then you're going to be using action cards to take tiles from the grid in specific patterns. Let me see if I can find the how to play section to show you this over here in Visuals. So you're going to play an action card. That action card will have a pattern, and you'll take those tiles from that grid. So you're trying to gather tiles from a grid using action cards. They're called artisan cards. But why do you want that? Because you have purchasing pattern cards. These are pattern cards where you can purchase any of the face-up pattern cards in the market using the tiles you've gathered. There's also ways to trade in random tiles for, replacement to basically substitute missing tiles. But you're trying to gather these tiles, trade them for pattern cards, and as you get enough pattern cards and similarities, you're going to be able to get new artisans. So gaining pattern cards will also get you better artisans, which will help you pick more tiles, having more variety around them. If you played games like maybe Dog Park, for example, it has that similar aspect of trying to use patterns to try to pull tiles from the board. I don't mean that in a bad way. Dog Park is a lot of fun, but it's just basically all about patterns and gaining tiles and using those tiles and trading them in until eventually one player crosses 20 points. There's more elements going on. There's inspiration, there's little expansion modules, but that's the core concept of the game. As far as the pledge levels over here, going down to the pledge levels, where are the pledge levels? Where's the pledge levels? Pledge tiers. Pledge tiers over here, $50 or $40 for the standard edition of the game. That's going to have a double layer board, but it has nice tiles over here, but wooden board, tiles over here, and that's kind of the basics as far as what you're getting. The larger deluxe pledge over here for $75 is giving you a board with an edge, so it's still double layer, but it has a whole nice new edge to it as well. And you have acrylic tiles, which are nicer and chunkier than wood for some of you. If you want the wood tiles, there's that cheaper pledge anyway. We have the jewelry box edition for $200, which gives you way too many extra stuff. This beautiful board over here, the bags over here, so it's just like a full another level as far as the premiumness of it. And then we have the jewelry box plus little Artistry expansion. This is a smaller box version of the game for $225. And Little Artistry is available as an add-on for $29 as well to those of you who want it. Obviously, shipping is going to be added to that as well, so you want to make sure you're looking at your shipping pledges over here and seeing what that's going to add to it. But that is basically Artistry from Docs Somnium Games. Moving on, we have Landfall, a cozy volcano island building game. 2,200 backers, $110,000 raised, 11 days to go. This is like, I don't know, have you ever played Hive? Because this feels like it's got like Hive vibes, like strong Hive vibes. And from the tile pieces themselves to the gameplay to a small degree, it feels like it's Hive but different, if that makes sense. Anyways, if you haven't played Hive, you should check it out. But if you haven't played Hive, you can also check out Landfall. Landfall, coming to you from the people who brought you Ransom Notes, Abduction, Bloom Chasers, all of these. Some in retail, some not so much. I think Abduction is their most well-known, but honestly, Ransom Notes on Amazon, like that is apparently a big seller on Amazon. But 2,200 backers, $111,000 raised, 11 days to go. Landfall is a game of, volcanoes. You're trying to basically accomplish you have a few basic structures or sets, kind of ways you're trying to make the table work in order to match your own shapes. You can be adding tiles to the board, moving your volcanoes, flipping tiles over volcanoes. There's a bunch of basic actions you're taking in this game in order to create 3 specific structures. You have your mountain, your valley, and your plains, and when players accomplish those, you're trying to be the first one to accomplish those goals, at least in the base game. The expansion is going to add a whole bunch more, so you have the expansions which both takes the game to 3 to 4 players if you want to play it at higher than 2 players, but also it gives you a new formation cards in a public pool, which I don't like the idea of the shared pool, so to speak, because I don't like the idea, but either way, we're not going to focus now. You have a bunch of new expansion cards, formation cards that'll mix things up, and you can use them either way they intended as a shared pool, or you could probably just give people their own separate cards and just go that way. I haven't played the game, I don't know why I'm suggesting variants to it. I'm just going by my own gut instincts as far as what I like or not. That's the basic idea of the game. It's a basic abstract game, an expansion that adds kind of more abilities, more things to it, more goals, and you're trying to arrange formations better and faster than your opponent through just the abstract tile placement. As far as the pledge levels are going to be Landfall Game 3. Nope. Where are the pledge levels? Why can't I never find these over here? I feel like we're just going to go to the sidebar. We have $30 for the Landfall base game. We have $50 for the Landfall base game plus full expansion. And then we have double sets, 50 for 2 base games or 85 for 2 base games plus 2 expansions in case you want those. That's going to be Landfall, an abstract game from the people who brought you, from Josh's very special games company, I guess. Moving on, we have Formaggio, 5,265 backers, 15 days to go. From Road to Infamy, R2I Games, who brought you Canvas, and also who brought you Fromage. This is a standalone game. There's a Fromage reprint in this campaign, but it's also a standalone game in the Fromage line, but it can be combined for more and higher variability to what Fromage did. The basic idea of Fromage and Formaggio, it is a delayed worker placement game. You're going to be placing your workers, these mice on cheese, onto the board as you spin the rondelle, and then you're going to be slowly getting them back, but you can place them in ways that give you more actions, but then you get them back. Well, stronger actions means you have to wait longer before getting them back. Weaker actions means you're going to get them back faster. And you're constantly balancing these placements in order to get the stronger actions when you need them, while also ensuring you have a constant supply of those workers, because you also have limited worker placements you can actually put out each round. There's a whole timing mechanism you're trying to figure out over here as far as when, where, and how to place your workers to optimally get what you want out of the experience. Now, the original Fromage had 4 centers on the board, 4 different quarters of the board as far as how each of these quarters operated. Each one gave you ways to get things, and you're trying to figure out how to optimize your points and where to place your workers to maximize each of the 4 different areas. Formaggio comes with 4 new areas, so you have 4 new areas, and yes, you can mix and match them in order to give you more combinability, more variability to the game experience in the different little areas you have. So if you like Fromage, Formaggio is just more and a better way, not better, but a more in terms of how to more stuff you can do and more ways to mix it up. As far as the better aspect, they do have one small element that's better, which is the center rondelle. They have a new improved Lazy Susan, which you can get either by backing this campaign or just by paying for it doing this campaign as well if you want to. Well, there's a deluxe edition and a standard edition. In the standard edition, you'd have to upgrade to the deluxe edition, so make sure you know what you're getting over here. Let's scroll down to the add-ons so I can show you that. We have the standard edition for $49, the $7 improved Lazy Susan, which is not in the standard edition. You'll want to buy this if you are getting the standard edition or if you're just here for this alone. I don't even know if you could get it just here alone. And we have the Fromage limited edition, which will come with this. So you do not need the Lazy Susan if you are getting the limited edition. Don't pay for it twice. That feels like I should say also, I'm pretty sure. I looked at this a few times. It seemed like it's very, very sure that this is coming on its own. But yeah, like it's right here. It's right here. I'm like 99.9% sure. I just hate telling people things that are wrong, so I want to be very careful. So $69 with the limited edition, which will give you the Fromage upgraded Lazy Susan as well. And then you have everything you need to mix and match and have the best components as well as the highest variability for your Fromage plus Formaggio experience. You could also obviously get the original game as well. This is a Formaggio limited edition, but it's also a Fromage reprint, $128 for both versions of the game if you want all of that. And that's basically Fromage from R2I Games. A very well received game, by the way, very well received. There's a reason it's doing $400,000 because people like this game a lot. Moving on. Fate of Venterra, a fantasy, epic fantasy board game, which is technically not a 4X game, I believe, but it feels mostly like it's hitting 4X genres. Like, there's differences. I think, does it have extermination? Is that the issue? Does it not? It might not have extermination, but it basically feels like a 4X game. 213 backers, 16 days to go, $32,000 raised. This is coming to you from Corrosive Games, and it's a deeply strategic. Oh, it is 4X. They're saying 4X, so I'll go with that. A deeply strategic 4X board game, asymmetric factions, rewarding gameplay, 0 combat randomizers, all of that. You're going to build out your map over here, and then you're going to be playing 2 action cards each round. Those action cards are going to define the things you're doing, so there's a lot of determinism in this game as far as how you build out your units, what units you build out, how you upgrade, how you improve. You're constantly getting upgrades and you're moving up on these 2 different tracks in order to improve your engine in the game, while also playing cards, gaining new units, placing buildings out as you spread around the board, and ultimately try to be the the dominant player at the end of the entire experience. There's going to be the base pledge over here for $90 for the standard edition of the game. We have the prestige edition, which gives you $139 for the deluxe upgrade components, as well as the Salvati expansion. In fact, let's go ahead and show you those over here. If we can show you the basics, we have Fate of Venterra, and then we have the deluxe components plus 6-player factions. So you can upgrade your standard game with 20 wooden faction tokens, the place of power models, the dual layer player boards, faction upgrade tiles, 62 wooden explorer tokens, the 3D mastery board, all of these things, as well as the new playable faction in that Salvati expansion for $139. And then we have the Fate of Venterra Legend Edition for $175. That's going to give you all of that, as well as the 140 custom sleeves, everything in one box, the Dark Light expansion, and 45 metal coins, all for $175. That is basically what you're getting over here. You're getting a few different pledge levels over here, a few different options to dive into this 4X board game experience of deterministic gameplay, content, upgrading, and all of that. Moving on, we have Jarren's Outpost. I think we have 2 more campaigns after this. Jarren's Outpost, 492 backers, 17 days to go, $37,000 raised. A chaotic board game full of funny quests and quirky characters, specifically from the D&D is for Nerds podcast. So if you're familiar with D&D is for Nerds, you might be the target audience to go out and get this game, or if you just want crazy action programming games, you might also be in the target audience for this game. The deluxe copy of this game is going to be $76, giving you, well, all of this stuff over here as far as the components. The basic game is going to run you $51, and that's those 2 pledge levels, $51 or $76 for the deluxe or basic versions of this game. And it's basically action programming. You're going to be selecting 4 cards, placing them down, determining your actions. So if you've played games like Robo Rally or any other games like Robo Rally, there's another game. What's that game? There's that kind of Western semi-shootout kind of crazy experience. I don't know. If you played any games like this, basically, action programming experiences, Mechs and Minions, Robo Rally, etc., Onward, and so forth, this has that aspect. You're basically trying to interact with various characters for better or for worse, depending on what you're trying to do, but you are planning your actions in advance and then seeing how everything plays out. So it has that kind of vibe of just seeing the chaos play out and seeing, well, you know, what's going to happen throughout the game. The pledge levels are going to be, let's see if we go to the pledge levels over here, $45 for the base edition of the game, 5 character boards, the components, the characters, and all of that. And then the deluxe edition of the game is going to give you Chunky. We've mentioned throughout this video, Chunky. Chunky is always good. I like Chunky. Then we have the upgraded trading post tile, the custom upgraded dice, wooden tokens and trackers, and all of that, as well as the add-on over here. This is included, by the way. This will be very clear. This is included in the deluxe pledge over here. The Blood Culty expansion, giving you more content for the game, a new Ralph Moroney character board, more standees, other things going on being added in this expansion that, again, is included in the deluxe pledge. Shipping is going to run you around, well, $20 for the game over here, so you want to factor that in as well. But that is going to be Jarren's Outpost, a action programming movement game of chaos from the D&D is for Nerds people. Then we have Holiday Hills. Holiday Hills, 709 backers, $59,000 raised, 17 days to go. Holiday Hills is a delightfully strategic tree decorating game. It's going to come with a family mode and a slightly more bitey mode. Well, let's talk about the basic game. The basic game is you're going to be trying to arrange patterns in the game. That's what you're trying to do. You're moving around, you have your own tree or other trees. You're trying to basically put things on trees, under trees, across trees, all with the goal of trading in your pattern cards that are going to have specific goals as far as what you're trying to achieve. So you're working towards your pattern cards. Other players might be helping you as they fill up your trees in different ways, but they're also helping themselves, hopefully. I mean, otherwise, why are they doing it? And then ultimately, you'll see who's able to trade in the pattern cards in this Holiday Hijinks game. I think Holiday Hijinks is a name of a different game. This Holiday Hills game. There's a slightly more bitey mode, which has more opportunities to mess with opponents' pieces and swap pieces around and do things in ways that are slightly more getting in each other's ways. But that's the basic idea of these games, and there's expansions to it as well. The basic pledge levels are going to be $45 for the retail edition, and then we have the deluxe edition for $60 that has all the pieces upgraded. Let's see again. Let's go to the component section over here. Retail edition. Retail edition is more, more stuff you typically expect. The cardboard stuff. The trees are still nice. The 3-part trees over here, and then a lot of punch board, different things that are going to be like components. They do the job, but they just do the job. Then we have the upgraded components over here. The trees are the same, but then we have all these upgraded components that are wooden stars. The dice are the same. The wooden screen printed lights over here. All these chunkier bits, mostly chunkier bits. Again, you can go through it over here to see the breakdown of each individual thing, but most of it is chunkier bits when the bits could be chunkier. That's going to be your deluxe edition of the game. For $79, you get the Santa and Krampus expansion over there, and then for $99, you get basically everything: the Dice Tower, the Wrath's Wonders, or whatever it's called. What is that expansion called? We have the Santa and Krampus double expansion, and we had one more over here. We had, what is it called? We had the Krampus Holiday Havoc. Nope, not that. The Wreaths and Wonders. Wreaths and Wonders. I was trying to read over here. I said Wraths and Wonders. Wreaths and Wonders. That makes more sense. That's more festive. That's basically the Holiday Hijinks campaign over here. A few different pledge levels from the base game to the expansions to the deluxe and all of that. And moving on to our last campaign of the day, we have Magneterra, a fantastic adventure on a magnetic battlefield, and there's been that one person in the comments for the past 3 weeks now asking me my thoughts on Magneterra. So I'll give you my thoughts on Magneterra. 293 backers, $38,000 raised, 17 days to go. Magneterra is a game of magnets. Honestly, it looks like a gimmick, but a gimmick that could be fun. Gimmicks can be fun. They're gimmicks. Gimmicks are complicated. Some entire games have been built on gimmicks, and some of them work, some of them don't. Let's find out what Magneterra is. Magneterra is a game where you have your hero and you're going to be rolling dice, moving around the board, and you have these kind of these highest magnet monoliths, so to speak. As you move around, as you get close to a monolith, the lower monolith, your character is going to move close to it, and the little magnet is automatically going to flip down onto it just through sheer magnetic strength. But then that means your magnetic strength is now stronger, and you can move now to higher monoliths. You can get around the board, slowly capturing higher and higher ones until eventually you get to the largest one, and if you can capture that one, you ultimately win the game. Along the way, there's other players getting in your way, there's various enemies getting in your way, there's all these kinds of things getting in your way, but the core idea is roll dice, move around the board, capture magnets, and then try to be the person who is able to capture the last tallest magnet in the game. That's the core idea over here. Again, there's more to it, but that's the basic idea. So inherently, the entire thing is a gimmick. There's no getting around the fact that it's very much a gimmick, and you're paying for the fun gimmickness of it. Gimmick does not mean bad. Gimmick just means that, like, this entire game could operate without the magnets. You could just say you have to do X, Y, and Z and you take a token. This is very much about the gimmick of moving your piece close to a tower and watching the piece fall down through sheer magnetic strength, which is fun. The question is the rest of the game around that good enough? And I don't know. I can't tell you that because I haven't played the game. What I can tell you, if you wanted my thoughts on this, and no offense to the creator, is I tend to be wary of gimmicks unless I see... Gimmicks can be fun, gimmicks can be great. I tend to want to play gimmicks before backing those games or buying those games, because if the thing that I'm seeing is mostly the gimmick, I want to know if the game is good too, and I just have no way of knowing that until I play it. That's true of all of these things, by the way. The only reason I'm really going into this is because I've had someone ask me my thoughts several times in this campaign. As far as the cost of the game, the base game is going to be $90, and then the deluxe edition, which is mostly going to be the metal coins, plus some extra things over here, but it's mostly about the metal coins, that's going to be $124. Let's actually show you over here. So we have the base game for $90, giving you the Novice Mage Warriors, the Master Mage Warriors, the monsters that are getting in your way, the pillars, all these things in the game for the basic game. The deluxe edition is giving you the metal coins, the art and strategy book, and then the art prints, which is why I said mostly metal coins, because I typically don't care about these. You might though, so, you know, to each their own. That's going to be the deluxe edition pledge. And the VIP edition is also giving you a 5th character kit in case you want to play a 5-character game. And then the complete edition is going to give you the spell cards, treasure tokens, and the Thean metal token as well on top of all of that. And then you can individually get these things as add-ons, which is especially relevant because, like, if like me, you don't care about the strategy guides and all that, maybe you want the base game plus the metal tokens. If you want just that, that'll be cheaper if you don't care about those other elements. That is basically the game. We have $40,000, the game diced in the Stormy Gray, but they haven't hit that yet. I don't believe so. At least let me scroll up over here. Yeah, they're just shy of that. They will hit it, but they haven't hit it yet. Generally, yeah, my thoughts are it's not cheap, and you're paying for a gimmick. It might be a lot of fun, and I'd happily play it. Like, I actively want to play it, but it definitely falls into that, you know, interesting category. And anyways, that is basically all the campaigns we have today, which means it's time for our usual picks of the week. Usually for picks of the week, I pick a value pick of the week as well as a personal interest pick of the week. So for value pick of the week, I still will name one, but I want to caution that, again, I didn't go into values today and should you back or should you not. Generally, I do a lot of research, and it's interesting because it's an entire segment. Like, I think a lot of people who watch this video series are just here for the crowdfunding campaigns and the general coverage of them. A lot of you are here because you want to actually find out, like, you know, okay, great, doesn't make sense to get it at retail. Where will it be cheaper? Should you get it whatever? Those are all good questions to ask, and I go into that every single week. But a lot of research actually goes into it, because I could give gut answers to everything. I can go through any individual campaign and give kind of a gut feeling based on just a quick 2-second scan, but gut feelings are not things that I feel comfortable giving opinions as to whether you should or shouldn't get a game and is it cheaper at retail. I just feel that's not fair to the creators to give gut feelings as opposed to well-researched opinions. So I generally do a lot of research into their previous campaigns. Are there similar campaigns? What's the current retail price point? What are the extras? Like, what I do a lot of breakdown into that, and it takes a lot of time and effort. And again, I've just been playing catch up because I missed like 2 weeks ago, and I've been playing catch up, and I decided to just catch up this week, and then moving forward, we'll go back to the value aspect. All that's to say that I am going to give you a value recommendation, but it is a gut instinct value pick of the week. I don't mind giving gut instincts for positive things, but I'd rather not give gut instincts when I tell you, hey, it's probably cheaper at retail. To that end, my gut instinct pick of the week is going to be Ozob. And a big part of this is based on the fact that, despite looking at this campaign, you might be like, only 391 backers. Again, I think it raised like 2 million on the Brazilian side. Like, this is doing very well. It has a large audience. They've just tapped into that audience. But the biggest thing for me is that this game is actually a lot of fun. And because it's a lot of fun, I think that generally games that are a lot of fun see a lot more interest down the road, especially when they're hard to get their hands on. on. And I think that people will enjoy this, and that, you know, word of mouth aspect will spread, and it will be harder to get your hands on in general until they do a future reprint. To that end, Ozob is my gut interest pick of the week, combined with the stretch goals, the pledge levels, all of those things. But again, it's not as heavily researched as I would like it to be, so take it with a grain of salt. As far as my personal interest pick of the week, I'm going to give that to Onward. This one's much easier. My personal interest pick of the week is the game that I am most interested in continuing to play, and Ozob is close to that in that category too, but this one definitely goes to Onward. It's a lot of fun. I really like MOBA as a genre, and I think this is an excellent implementation of it, and it easily replaces Skytier for me while feeling familiar and yet different enough. I have small critiques about it, but for the most part, it's just a great MOBA style game that I could teach somebody in like 5 minutes and get up and playing. There'd be differences. You have to deal with like all the edge cases, but it's easy to teach, easy to play, and a lot of fun. And that is everything, which brings us to our upcoming campaigns. Coming up next week or tomorrow, whatever it is, we have G.I. Joe with 9,000 people following the campaign, Operation Cobra. Don't know a lot about it, but I'm sure I'll know a whole lot more over the next week. And then we also have Rise of Myths Cthulhu from Synergia Games, launching again tomorrow. This is going to be a roguelike deck building card game that I've already covered on the channel, and you can check that out as well. And that's basically it. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you appreciate this video. I hope you have an excellent week, and as always, I hope you have a good one. Oh my gosh. Last week, it was a bit of a... I had an investment opportunity, and it was a little crazy, but I spent my entire life savings on pasta. My family thinks I'm insane, but I'm telling you, I think it's worth every penny.